Hello to everybody, my name is Gernot Mitter, I'm from Austria. I'm working with the Federal Chamber of Labor there, the Department for Labor Market and Integration Policy. And now I'll try to introduce you in a phenomenon of the European Union and its member states, the so-called social dialogue, which to some extent can be issued as shared social governance. A kind of representation and influence of social partners, of organized representatives of employees and businesses into the legal, into the process of lawmaking, into the process of delivering public services. What you are waiting, that's the content of the short presentation you will listen in the next minutes. First of all, we have to talk a little bit about what is social dialogue and who is engaged. The next part is why should governments, trade unions, business representatives engage in social dialogue. So, in the following half an hour, I try to show you what is social dialogue, what is the definition, what is meant by social dialogue, and who is engaged. The second part is why should the engaged parties engage in social dialogue? What's the rationale behind social dialogue? There are certain preconditions which have to be set up that social dialogue really is functioning. That will be the third part. The fourth part is what is social dialogue dealing with? What are the issues of shared social governance? And then at the end I try to show you a short resume. Definition. What is social dialogue? There are a lot of definitions around the world. If you look at literature, you'll find a huge set of attempts to define social dialogue. I'll stick on the definition from the ILO, the International Labour Organization. The ILO says that social dialogue includes all types of negotiations, consultation or information sharing between representatives of governments, labor and business, and between those of workers and businesses. Social dialogue should be on issues of common interests which are relating to economic and social policy. That's a widely agreed definition of social dialogue. Social dialogue is a kind of solving conflicts between interests. Social dialogue is not a structure, is not a method, but social dialogue is in its core an attitude, a culture. A culture to try to solve conflicts by compromise and consent instead of struggle, by concerting interests, which means that each party of social dialogue has to be able to reconcile internal interest conflicts before they are engaging in social dialogue on a broader trilateral level. And this kind of handling conflicting interests in economy and social affairs is really in the core of the European social model. So it's maybe to some extent a development which took part in Europe and is now spreading around the world. If you look at the realities in the states who are engaged.
I'm very sorry, if you look, let us start with this one, but you are moving to that, please come, if you.
So if you look at social dialogue in the European member states, you'll find a huge diversity. This diversity is related to the different historical and political developments within the single member states of the European Union. And you see the methods, the procedures of social dialogue in the member states are as diverse as the historical developments within the member states have been. Social dialogue, I already mentioned it, is more an attitude and a culture than a structure, and it means, and that's really important, it means sharing of power. Government has to have the will to share power with the social partners, with the representatives of trade unions and business organizations. And sharing power means somebody has to have power. So it's dealing with organizations which have some influence on economy and society. Social dialogue is a way of solving conflicts by negotiations, by trying to reach compromises and, in some extent, consent between the parties involved. And it is a means to enhance, let's say, acceptance and sometimes of political and sometimes even bureaucratical solutions and decisions. So it's a way of, let's say, it's a way of a more peaceful development of an economy, of a society, than relying on conflict as means to solve interest conflicts in a society. Again, there are two main manifestations of social dialogue. If you look at literature, if you look at the evidence in the states who are engaged in social dialogue, you'll see so-called bilateral social dialogue. That's negotiations, information sharings, the attempt to reach joint opinions between the trade unions as workers' organizations and business representative organizations. Bilateral social dialogue usually manifestates in so-called collective agreements. Collective agreements are agreements, treaties between the trade and between the business and labor side in an autonomous field, in a field where they can act without interference of the government. Usually you'll find in the collective agreements regulation of wages, regulation of working conditions in a field and in a kind of manner which is independent of the government. This bilateral social dialogue, although it's independent from government or should be independent from government, needs a minimal frame of legal framework. The outcomes may even be on a cross-industry or national level, joint opinions concerning the economic and social development of the country, of the respective country. The second manifestation of social dialogue is the so-called trilateral social dialogue, and that's maybe the most interesting example of social dialogue in the European Union and within the member states of the European Union. Trilateral social dialogue involves business, labor organizations and government. It's a means of involving these two main stakeholders of an economy, the business organizations and the labor organizations, in the in public decision making. That's the main issue of trilateral social government, to open the way how a government makes its decisions concerning economic and social issues. That's what I meant with shared social governance. The governments open their procedure of decision making, internal decision making, towards the social partners and engage them, give them possibility to add their knowledge, to add their interests, and negotiate with them on appropriate decisions for a certain problem. Mainly, you find this trilateral social dialogue concerning medium and long-term policy orientations. Looking at the member states in the European Union at the years 2008, 2009, 2010, where the member states were deeply affected by the worldwide economic crisis, you'll find a lot of so-called social pacts, where both governments and the representatives of business and labor agreed on certain policies to overcome the economic crisis, and that meant that both sides, or not both sides, all three sides, had to face that they can't succeed in following only their interests, that they have to look at the interests of the other side and negotiate on a common way which is accepted by all sides to solve the crisis. And you'll find in some member states, not in all, of the European Union, concrete procedures how the social partners are involved in the drafting of concrete laws, of concrete regulation, and even in the delivery of public services, mainly in the field of labor market. Most of the labor market services, the public labor market services within the member states, are influenced by the social partners. So we have two main kinds of social dialogue: the bilateral one, which is quite common worldwidely, but the trilateral social dialogue as a means to open government's decision-making procedures for stakeholders on the labor market is a vital and important element of the so-called European social model, and is really important for the economic and social development in the member states of the European Union and of the European Union itself.